From deep in the Burbank Media District, it's time for another edition of myBurbank Talks, presented by the staff of myBurbank. Now, let's see what's on today's agenda as we join our program.
Hi, this is Ashley Erikson from myBurbank, and welcome back to another episode of Women of Burbank. Today, my guest is Erika Dawn. She is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu kids coach and the general manager here in Legacy in Burbank. She has competed all over the world, and in November of 2022, she was promoted to black belt. I'm so excited you're here and to learn about you today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I was so excited. I get a little nervous. I'm like, oh boy, okay, but I was really excited.
It's going to be so easy, and I'm really excited because my son just joined Legacy the last couple months, and it's very new to us, but it already feels like a family, and you go in there and you see the same faces. You feel like they're all day, every day with the number of practices there are. So I see you every day when I'm there, and I never got to learn about you and talk to you, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And also, your son is amazing.
Oh, thank you. He just got his first stripe. It was very exciting. Very, very exciting. So first, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you grew up. When did you come to LA? What's your background?
Well, I grew up in Colorado. So I grew up there and kind of outside of the city of Colorado Springs, like in El Paso County, Colorado. My parents lived on 6 acres, kind of grew up with like the farm kid life, you know, but not like a functional, I don't want to say not a functional farm, but my mom like full send. Like she was like, we were going to have ducks and chickens and goats, and we had horses for a while, and we had some acreage, and so we had dirt bikes. So I kind of grew up like as this farm kid, very tomboy girl, and then and I had all like boy cousins. So it was very like a tomboy upbringing. And then out of nowhere, like my mom was always throwing sports at me, like soccer, soccer, softball, volleyball, and nothing stuck. Like I was a super active kid, an athletic kid, wild child, but none of the sports or team sports stuck.
Yeah,
find it. No, I couldn't find it. So then she stuck me in gymnastics, and I really liked it, and I excelled. It was like a good solo sport for me. But it was just kind of like teacher of the week. The facility was really disorganized. So then she pulled me out of gymnastics, and she was like, well, I'm going to put you in dance. And it was like this tomboy kid going into being a dancer. Well, I loved it. I loved it. And it like changed the trajectory of my life. Like it was like the thing where my mom said, if we throw enough mud on the wall, something's going to stick.
Yeah.
And it was dance. And I was like completely and fully immersed into the life of a dancer. And so I danced all through, like middle school, high school, and I traveled to Los Angeles a handful of times with my company. And we would dance and we would train here in the summers. And there was a school called the Edge Performing Arts Center in Los Angeles in downtown. And all the alumni from my school and my academy would go and they would audition for this scholarship program. And the scholarship program was like a 1-year intensive. And then after that, they helped you get agents. And then you would start working as a dancer in LA. So I decided my freshman year of high school, like that's what I wanted to do.
Wow.
And I always really struggled in school. So I always, I barely passed high school. Like it was like, I think my guidance counselors just genuinely liked me as a person.
Stick with dance.
They liked me as a person, but they like helped me pass. But like the college route, I was like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
And so I put all my eggs in one basket and I trained, and my parents said, if you want to go do this LA thing after you graduate, like you got to save, you got to work for it, and you got to pay for it. You're going to, if you want to live there and do the scholarship program, it's like on you. So I worked all through high school, saved a bunch of money, was dancing, came out, did the auditions for the scholarship program, and then I didn't make it.
Oh, no.
I didn't make it, and that was everything that I had, like, I put my all into that thing. And I remember crying, and they posted the thing. They posted the results, and I didn't make it. And I called my dad at, like, midnight, and he was like, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. This is everything I thought about doing, like, was to dance. And he was like, well, he's like, go, like, move to LA and just, even if it's just 3 months, just go and do it. And so this upbringing of like being this farm girl to then a dancer to then just, when I was 19, I just came home, packed 2 suitcases, and I moved to LA, and that was in 2012.
Wow, that's
So,
a big jump of
yeah,
faith.
it was huge.
Yeah.
It was huge. Now when I look back, I'm like, what? Why did they let me do that?
Oh, but look where it's got you now. I'm like
Yeah.
so excited, like the retrospective, like how you've come so far. And like,
Mhm.
tell me where you went from being a dancer to finding jujitsu, because that's
Yeah.
like a complete opposite thing, I
Yeah.
feel like.
Yeah, and I had no karate, like no martial arts. Like
And
was
you were not an athlete before at
Mm-mm.
all, other than dancing.
other than a dancer. Like I was a
Yeah.
dancer and I was active, but like didn't do sports. I had no knowledge of any martial art.
Mhm.
And I came to LA and it was a big struggle. Like it was a big struggle like to train and financially, and I'd had, however much I had saved up, before I came out, which wasn't a lot, and I remember barely making enough money
Mhm.
to just survive. And so while I was trying to audition, and so I got my personal training. I got into weightlifting and I got into my personal training certification because I was like, if I can do personal training, I can
Mhm.
set my own hours aside from like, I wasn't working in restaurants, but I was doing retail, which is
Okay.
like, you have no say, and
Yeah.
you make essentially nothing. And so I was like, I'm going to get certified as a personal trainer, start doing personal training to set my own hours. So I started working at a place called Results Personal Training in Sherman Oaks. And the owner was a wrestler from Romania.
Wow.
And he was kind of like my mentor. He helped me learn how to like start to work with people, how to do personal training, start to work on one-on-ones.
Mhm.
And it was a gym only for one-on-one training. And a lot of the people that he trained, he worked with were professional wrestlers and professional jiu-jitsu athletes.
Okay.
So I would see these jiu-jitsu athletes coming in and doing their training, and it was just like insane. And they were always like prepping for worlds or like these big tournaments. And, they would always just kind of like tease at me, and they would be like, hey, like you should come to jiu-jitsu. Like they're always trying to get me to come in. I'm
Yeah.
like, first of all, I don't even know what you're saying. Like, I don't know anything. I'm this like naive, like 19-year-old or at the time I was a little older now, I was 21.
Mhm.
I was like, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know anything about the sport at all. And so one of the guys he was training was like a big time world champion. He had his own school, and that kind of like intimidated me. I was like, I'm up for trying it, but that
Yeah.
school, like not knowing anything about the world, seemed a lot to me. So one of his other black belts had like a smaller school. And I was like, you know what? I'll go there. I'll go to like the smaller, newer school. And I went in and I tried a class. I had no idea. Like no idea what I was
And
getting
it's
into.
intense too. Even for the first class, they're like throwing you around like a
Totally.
rag doll.
Yeah, we did hip tosses, which was like literally exactly that.
Yeah.
But I remember walking in. First of all, I like paced in the parking lot, like for
Yeah.
like 30 minutes, like getting myself brave enough to walk in, go in, and they hand me a gi, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I like put it on. It feels like these giant pajamas, and like I
Uh-huh.
have someone at the desk like tying my belt. Like now it's interesting, like for me to watch
Yeah.
all the white belts and all the new people like get
Those
to.
feelings that they're
Yeah.
having walking in.
And I like totally understand,
Yeah.
like exactly how they're feeling. That's how I felt, a decade ago. And but anyways, I go in, and after my first class, we did like hip tosses, and I was like, I love this. Like this is so fun.
Mhm.
Like this is what I want to do. And so yeah, that's how I like jumped into it. It was just all by like accident. And I think for me, a big reason why it was so important to me when I first came out here was I was really struggling first moving to LA, and I had no community and I had
Mhm.
no friends. And growing up in Colorado and like dancing, I always had a strong community. And so
Yeah.
something that like drew me to jujitsu in the beginning, yes, was the skill and the new sport. And I loved it. But it was also like I didn't have any friends. Like I had very little friends, a very small group. And so
Mhm.
it felt like somewhere I could go. And it was like all encompassing for me. It was like my place.
Yeah. And you're so one-on-one with people. So
Yeah.
it's like you have to get to know people when you're like headlocking them, right?
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, we're gonna get real close real fast.
Exactly. So then you jumped into competing very quickly because it was like what, a couple months
Yeah.
you were doing classes and then you went into the competition world.
Mhm.
So what was like that going from practices to understanding the competition world?
So, so for me, I've always kind of been like a full send kind of person. Like
You're
just
all
like,
in.
I'm all in. Like,
Mhm.
you want to go skydiving? Yeah, sure. Why not? You want to like whatever? Like, let's go.
Yeah.
And so the coach was like, oh, you should compete. And I was like, okay. Like it was like 3 months in, like brand new white belt. I didn't know anything,
Wow.
and I just like registered and I didn't know what to expect. I had like no idea. I went in and I had like crazy fight. Like a crazy fight. It was like a 5-minute fight. The score was 0-0. And then at that time, if it was 0-0, you get kind of like a sudden death where the first person to score wins. So they stand you up right after this fight, shake hands, and you go. First person to score wins. We ended up fighting for like another 5 or 6 minutes. And then she finally scored on me. And I just remember like, oh my gosh, like I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I
You
lost.
held your ground for so
I
long.
held my ground just because of like pure grit. Like I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew was to like at the time was stay on top.
Yeah.
I didn't know other points. I didn't know other strategy.
Yeah.
I just knew I was on the top and I didn't want to go on the bottom.
And that's such like the competition world is so interesting. Like when I think about karate or wrestling or jiu-jitsu, it's like I just feel like you're supposed to just take them out, make them hit the ground, sit on them or something, tap them out. But there's like points, and the way you do things creates different points, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm sure that's like a whole science to it, like learning what to do and what creates points. And like you're probably going like when you're in the competition, are you constantly like, okay, my hand's here, so I have to move it here to get to this point? Like, is it like a whole process?
Yeah, it's definitely a process. And like when I first started competing, I didn't know anything, but I loved it and I wanted to keep doing it. And I competed a lot all through, all the ranks. And it was just something like you had to learn the rules and you had to learn like how to score, like how to advance position, how to like learn what earns you what points. And so it was really cool because jiu-jitsu is it's for self-defense. Like I feel very like strong and confident as a woman on the street. So I feel like I could protect myself, but at the same time there's the self-defense aspect, but then there's also like the sport aspect. If you want to learn like the strategy and the techniques and the like sport jiu-jitsu and points and all that kind of stuff, it's like all encompassing.
You know how to win points, but you also know how to take someone down.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, it's nice.
I love that. It's a perfect sport. So then you came to Legacy because that wasn't where you started, right?
No.
So Legacy is here in Burbank on Victory. So what brought you to Legacy and how was that beginning months starting over there?
So my first school, like I said, I just went and tried this new school and they were new and I wanted to compete. Like after competing for a while, I wanted to compete and I wanted, more structure. And someone had invited me to Legacy. I tried a class and I was still a white belt actually when I first just tried a class. And all of the people like lower white belt rank than me, they were like beating me up super bad. And one of the guys there, he still coaches there, Joey. He's Kettle Jitsu on Instagram. And he was telling me, oh yeah, we have a fundamentals program, and I was just like, oh wow, like I don't have that. And we have a lot of competitors. And I'm like, oh, we don't really have that. And so I ended up staying at my first school for a while. I ended up getting my blue belt because it was really hard for me to leave. I had made changes like that in the dance world where it's like you leave studios and it can be like a difficult switch. And so I was really nervous, but I eventually decided that I wanted to be at Legacy because I did my research on Alberto Crane and he's just a pioneer like in the sport. And I wanted to compete. And so I went and I remember going to like a noon class and I met Alberto and I was like so nervous. I was like, oh God, I don't even know how to talk to him. But I went up and I was like, hi, I'm Erika and I want to compete. Can I come here?
Aww.
And he was just kind of like, He's like, okay. And so I made the switch. And in the beginning, it was like a little hard for me because I had gotten my blue belt at my first school.
Okay.
And I felt like my first school really taught me how to be tough.
Yeah.
Like they taught me how to be tough. I was like fighting these guys. And I mean, it was like, I could just go. But my technique was really lacking because I didn't have like a strong fundamental base.
So did you started from ground zero when you went over to Legacy, or does your belt transfer over?
Yeah, so my belt transferred over. So I had just gotten my blue, and then I moved to Legacy as a fresh blue belt. And I was in the advanced classes, but there was like other white belts. Like once you get like a certain amount of stripes on your belt, you can come up into like the advanced classes. And I remember some of the white belts just destroying me. And I was like, no matter how hard I fought, I was not doing well. And so the transition at first was just like, oh my gosh, like I don't even want this like blue belt. Like these white belts are like kicking my butt. So in the beginning it was an adjustment, but then my technique really started to improve and I started competing with them. And so in the beginning it was just like this adjustment of really having to like swallow that. Like, okay, I know how to, like, I'm gritty and I'm down for a fight, but my technique was really lacking. And it took me like a good amount of time to feel like I was catching up.
Yeah. And there's so many classes at Legacy. I
Yeah.
feel like, I mean, they're open all day long.
Yeah.
The kids' classes, there's like, what, 9 a week? There's one
Yeah.
every single day, sometimes 2 a day.
Yeah.
So there's really an opportunity to grow and grow
Yeah.
quickly in
Yeah.
the sport too, I think, right?
Yeah, and that's what I loved so much about Legacy, because when I made the switch over there, I was still working in Sherman Oaks as the personal training gym, but I loved the schedule at Burbank because there's so many options. Like,
Yeah.
and that's something that I feel like we like really try to focus on, is like trying to cater to everyone. Like we have 5:30 a.m. fitness class. We have a 6:30 a.m. like all levels and fundamentals class. We have 10 a.m. We have
It goes
11
on and
noon.
on. It's crazy.
And then you jump into our kids class, and we know like how active all the kids are
Yeah.
here. Like we have like piano and dance and soccer and all these things. And so we, when we were really working on our schedule, we wanted to make it available to have a fundamentals option 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many kids. It's like, oh, we're in soccer
100%.
season. Do we have to cancel? No, if you have soccer on Tuesday, Thursday, come on Monday, Wednesday, or come, Saturday, Sunday, whatever you can.
Yeah.
So we have a very broad schedule, and then our schedule just continues all the way till like 10 p.m.
It's a great business plan. I mean,
Yeah.
because we have soccer and my other kids have stuff, and so there's always at least 2 days that we can make it there,
Yeah.
which I think is perfect.
Yeah,
So,
and the times alternate and stuff.
Yeah.
So it took a while to like figure that schedule out,
Yeah.
to figure out like what worked for the community.
Mhm.
But I really do feel like this community, I mean, probably most, but just being in Burbank for so long, everybody's active.
Yeah,
Everybody has something.
something.
Everybody, we have tons of people that work at like Nickelodeon and
Mhm.
Warner Brothers and stuff like that. So the schedules are always, they
Yeah.
vary like so vastly. So it's nice to have a nice packed
Yeah.
schedule.
100%. And it's not just jiu-jitsu there. There's Muay Thai,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And you do tack fit, which
Yep.
is, can you tell me a little bit about what tack
Yeah.
fit is?
So we have the Muay Thai, which is like striking. We have a kettle jitsu class, which is like body weight and kettlebells. And then we have the TAC Fit program. And the TAC Fit program is like a complete fitness module, I guess. It's like the easiest way to explain it is
Okay.
it touches base on like joint mobility and really making sure like you can move through like all your fascial lines and working on your joints. And then
Yeah.
it runs through different timing protocols, and it works like all like aspects of fitness, like strength and mobility and being able to do dynamic range of motions like in your protocol, which would be
Mhm.
like the work part, like the strength and conditioning part of it. And then the end of class always ends with like a long cool down, like deep stretching, working on
Yeah.
breath. So it's a very like complete program. And the nice thing about the TAC Fit is it can be for anybody. It can be for the new mom. It can be for someone that's like an athlete actively competing. It can be for someone who's had like a sedentary life and they want to be fit and they want to like
Yeah.
be healthy for their family, and they come in and it's like we all can be in one room training,
Mhm.
and you have your protocol on the board and everybody can
Do it at their own pace.
do it at their own pace,
yeah.
and it's really a special
Yeah.
program.
I'm sure that helps a lot with like preventing injuries,
Yeah.
right? Like keeping those muscles flexible and
Yeah.
warmed up and
Yeah.
stuff.
Definitely.
So tell me, the belts confuse me beyond belief.
Okay.
So I know it's different than karate. Like the
Yeah.
colors are different,
Yeah, the
right?
colors are different.
And then so I see like the coaches, and I did see like a poster that had like the colors and there's like names. It's like a coach,
Mhm.
assistant coach, professor.
Yeah.
Right. That's how it
Yeah.
works.
So essentially all the colors go for adults. They're
Uh-huh.
different for kids.
Yeah.
But for adults it's white, blue, purple, brown, and black.
Okay.
So all of the colored ranks, white, blue, purple, and brown, were referred to as coach.
Got it. Okay.
So you're a coach, and then once you get your black belt, then people start, instead of Coach Erika, it's Professor Erika.
Oh, that's exciting.
yeah, it's been like because I just got my black belt in November of
Yeah.
2022. And it's been like still to this day, people are like, oh, Coach Erika, oh, I mean Professor. And I'm like, no, trust me, like you can call
I'm
me
still getting
Coach,
used to it.
because I'm still getting used to it. And I've
Yeah.
been coach for, like 7,
Mhm.
8 years. So, but that's how the belts work.
Okay.
And then it varies, but typically like white to black is around a 10-year process. So
Wow.
yeah. So it took me like right under 10 years
Yeah.
to get my black belt.
Do you do the stripes like the kids do too?
A little differently. So again, kids are run on a different ranking system, but yeah. So for adults, we get 4 stripes per belt. So you get
Okay.
like four white stripes on your white to brown,
Mhm.
And then the black belt stripes run a little differently. They're like
Okay.
longer, like after a couple years, and then
Yeah.
so they're a little different. So yeah, we get 4 stripes on your belt, and then each belt has its kind of like rough timeline. Like white belt is usually like at least a year, if
Okay.
not like a year and a half. And then blue belt is like the longest belt for adults. That's why
Wow.
they call it you often hear it called like the blue belt blues.
You'll never get out of it kind of
Yeah,
thing?
it's like this thing. Like I was a blue belt for 3.5 years. Like
Yeah.
my blue belt was just falling apart. Like it was like shredding, and purple is like about 2 years, brown is like
Okay.
around 2 years. So it ends up kind of equaling out
Yeah.
to like a 10-year process.
You really have to have patience and dedication.
Yeah.
You're in there for the long run.
Yeah, you're in it for the long run. And I think like something that when people ask me like, oh, how do I get there? It's
Yeah.
just like time is gonna pass regardless,
100%.
And so it's just like if you just keep showing up and just
Yeah.
focus on that, like the belt changes over
Mhm.
time. And it's an amazing process.
Yeah.
But yeah, just consistency and keep showing up,
Yeah.
and the belt changes and the skill improves, and you gain so much that helps you on and off the mat.
That's amazing. And the
Yeah.
and the kids' belts are different, right? So
Yeah.
we start with the white, but they have 8 stripes.
They have 12 actually.
Well.
Yeah. So the thing that's like different about jujitsu than other martial arts is you're in the belts for a long time.
Yeah.
So, and that can be difficult for kids. So with karate, they move through like a lot of different colors pretty quickly. With
Mhm.
jujitsu, like for a child, like you sit in your belt for a year.
Yeah.
So each academy, varies on how they do their belts and how they do their stripes. Like everybody kind of does it
Mhm.
a little different, more or less, like the same. I don't know. It's like it kind of depends on the academy.
Yeah.
But we keep our kids in a belt for about a year. And then the stripes that go on the belt, there's 4 white ones, 4 red ones, and then 4 black ones.
Okay.
And then we do like a test and a graduation, and then the kid will graduate. So basically we do our stripes on I don't know if you've ever seen me with my clipboard.
Yes.
Okay.
Because when I was waiting for Riley's stripe, because I was like, we have been here, I feel like, every single
Yes.
day, right? And I see the clipboard and I see like the white stripes and the red
Mhm.
stripes. I'm like, oh my gosh, someone's getting a stripe today.
Yeah. So basically, the kids pull their attendance cards.
Uh-huh.
Cards go into the system, and our system tracks their attendance.
Okay.
So the kids are eligible for a stripe as long as they've done 8 classes a month.
Okay.
So 8 times, if they had to come 8 times in a month. And once they hit their 8 of 8 classes and it's been the appropriate amount of time, I
Mhm.
highlight them on the
Got it. Okay.
sheet. So we first base it off of attendance because
Mhm.
we want the kids to be consistent.
Yeah.
'Cause consistency and for a child and for an adult it's everything.
100%.
So we first look at the attendance, and then after I highlight the kids, I'll like go. You maybe probably see me like going through and looking at the
Mhm.
child, and it's then we take into account behavior.
Okay.
So like how's their behavior? Like are they respecting their training area? Are they respecting their coaches? Are they
Mhm.
kind to their training partners? Are they helpful to their training partners? Do they have good etiquette,
Yeah.
and good manners? So, again, other schools do it differently. We do consistency and attendance. That's like your baseline. And then
Mhm.
after that, we take like a deep dive into their behavior. And that's something that I think I've just implemented, when I first started taking over the program like years ago, was like, man, I just want to help build like quality human beings.
Yeah.
Like some schools will test off of skill, but for me, the skill is kind of like last.
Yeah.
I've always looked at skill last because I'm like, if you're being consistent and you are kind and you have good behavior and you have good ethics and you're working hard, and like the skill will come.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to develop skill differently.
It's
like
going to click at some point,
it's
right?
going to click at some point as long as those other things are in line.
Yeah.
So then after we see attendance, behavior, and then skill development, then that's when we'll give them a stripe. So
Okay.
Riley probably hit like his 8 of 8 classes.
Yes.
Um,
It was very exciting. And it was funny because every time the clipboard would come out, I'm like, I'm going to record just like today's
oh,
the day.
yeah.
And then I like gave up and I was like, it's just going to happen. And then the day I did not pull my phone out,
No.
it was
Oh
but
my
I got it really
God.
quickly. So I did videotape him
Yeah.
getting it put on, but I didn't get his name. But it was almost like better that way because
Yeah.
you're not expecting
Yeah.
it. And so I just wanted like him to get his first stripe. It really does show when you put the work
Mhm.
in and when you are showing up,
Mhm.
it pays off.
Yeah. Oh, I
They
got
are
goosebumps.
rewarded for that.
They're rewarded
Yeah.
for it. And I think it's good because, they get 12 stripes on their belt, and like
Mhm.
the kids track them. They're like, Oh, Coach Erika, Professor Erika. See, I just did it. Coach. I called myself coach. It's been so long.
I introduced you as a coach too.
That's okay. I'm a
Professor.
coach. I think coach is teacher. You know, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, like whatever the rank is, like I'm just a teacher. You know,
Yeah.
but the kids like the Professor Erika, like I'm done with all 4 of my red stripes. Like I'm gonna get my black stripes now. Like I'm gonna be a gray and white
Yeah.
belt soon. So they're in their belt for about a year, and they go white belt, and then gray and white, gray,
Mm-hmm.
and then gray and black. So there's like a white stripe in the middle, a
Right.
solid color, and then the black stripe in the middle. So we'll go through the grays, yellow, orange, green.
That sounds like forever.
It sounds like forever, but it kind of like lines up with the kids.
So by the time they're an adult,
So
they'll be getting their blue.
Yes.
Okay.
So by the time the year that they turn 16, like in the year that they will go from 15 to 16, they're eligible for a blue belt.
Okay.
So like Riley, for example, he will actually probably skip some of like the one with the white stripe in the middle because
Okay.
he's older.
Okay. So age also depends.
Age
on
also
it too.
depends on it too. So he'll
Got
still
it.
go through like his grays, yellow, orange, and green, but he might not get every single one. Where like
Yeah.
the little ones,
They're stuck there till they're 16, right?
yeah,
So
like,
they have to.
So we need a lot of options.
Yeah,
for
and
them.
I think the change it
Mhm.
keeps them going. It makes
Yeah.
sense. It's like a little reward. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm working hard. I'm seeing the stripes. I'm seeing the colors. So
Yeah.
it's a great system that's worked
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
It's a good system. It took us a while to like develop into that to figure out like, okay, what's good for the kids,
Yeah.
like ultimately, and like what's proficient for the coaches,
Yeah.
you know. And so we've got a good system, and I like it, and I like that even with the clipboard, like a lot of people are very visual, so you know
Mhm.
I might have like more difficult kids that need like a lot of guidance, and so it's really nice when I can take my clipboard and they're eligible on their like attendance, but their behavior might not be there. So I can
Yeah.
like, I don't know if you've ever seen me after classes, like talking to parents and a kid, and I'll pull the kid upside and I say, hey, look, and I'll show them my clipboard and be like,
Yeah.
you see how your name is highlighted? And they're like, oh, like, yeah. And I'm like, well, what that means is that you were due for a stripe today. And then they like, you can see it, like the
Yeah. Like
devastation.
this is
like,
the moment I gotta
"What?"
work hard.
Like, what? I didn't get it. And I'm like, well, this is what we want to look for. And I try to give
Yeah.
them like some sort of goal for
Mhm.
like the next time that they come into class is like, okay, so next time we're going to focus on your behavior and warm up. Like, can
Yeah.
you follow along? Like, and I try to make it like bite sized for them,
Yeah.
you know, because some kids like struggle with like whatever it is, like their attention span, or they
Mhm,
just,
mhm.
they have a hard time following directions. So I'll give them like a bite sized something. And then the next time they come in, like they know, they're like, okay, like I am going to
Yeah.
keep my toes on this line and listen to Professor Erika and all the other coaches. And
And I think the thing that they're learning here on the mat, they're taking with them at school and at
Mhm.
home. I have just in the few months I've noticed such a huge difference in Riley. We've never been a sports family.
Mhm.
Group sports were not my thing. And my oldest does boxing. It's always just one-on-one. And
Mhm.
so we were a little skeptical with jiu-jitsu just because his attention span is just
Mhm.
like he loves to try things and he's a creative person.
Mhm.
And so the second that first class, it was
Mhm.
like, this is my thing and I want to come every single day.
I got goosebumps.
And it puts his energy out. It
Mhm.
exhausts him.
Mhm.
He knows he's working hard. He feels stronger. He's like checking his muscles out,
Yeah.
you know? So what you're doing there in the studio, it transfers to the kids in their life. So it's
Yeah.
really amazing.
And that's like, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm such a sucker. But yeah, and that's like for me is like the biggest thing is like, yes, there's like the skill. You know,
Mhm.
we're teaching them skills. We're teaching them like a sport. But like it's such a amazing sport because unlike other martial arts, you can't really you can spar, but not the way you spar in jujitsu. Like
Yeah.
jujitsu, you can go just go full
Yeah.
on, and then like you get caught in something or you get in an uncomfortable position, you tap
Yeah.
and you start over. So you're physically fighting.
Yeah.
And that, like, you're fighting, it teaches you how to respect yourself. It teaches how to respect your training partners because,
Mhm.
you know, we don't let the kids, we're very strict with if you don't understand tapping and you don't understand how to take care of not only yourself, like if you're not tapping for your own self
Right.
or you're not tapping when a partner lets go, like there's zero
Mhm.
tolerance. Like you go
Yeah.
back down to your fundamentals, you know,
Yeah.
like because we want to make sure like everybody's safe,
Yeah.
everybody's learning, but that alone translates so much off of the mat of like
Mhm.
how to respect the people around them, how to like I see a lot of kids develop like in the way that they talk to their parents or the way that
Yeah.
they talk to their teachers or how they take care of the people around them.
Yeah.
Because when you're fighting, like you don't realize how much it translates off the mat. And that to
Yeah.
me is like the most special thing is like, yeah, I want to create athletes, but like these kids are the future and like it's up to them,
Yeah.
And so that's why I love Legacy so much because it is like very family. Like we are very family oriented and all the coaches like genuinely just like love the kids and want the kids to get better. And
Mhm.
all of us coaches have like the coaching team, like Josiah, Marco, Thomas, Ben,
Yeah.
Matt, Kevin, like we've all grown up together, like in our own training. So then we like come together and we give that to the kids. It's just like, it's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing to me.
It is, and they see the way you guys treat each other, and they see the way that the mat's supposed to be treated.
Yeah.
Like all of the different things, it just creates such a level of discipline. I love it. And you started at Legacy with a blue belt,
Mm-hmm.
but in 2018 you're promoted to purple belt,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when you took over the director of the kids program.
Yeah.
Right?
So I first like I was doing personal training and then the head coach for the kids program ended up like leaving. And it was a very sudden like one day like we had the school had a head coach and then all of a sudden like nothing.
Mhm.
And so I ended up being free like that afternoon and I didn't know anything. I didn't like work with kids and I was a blue belt at the time. And I offered like, "Well, I'm free. Like, do you need me in the afternoon?" And they were like, "Yes." Like, we're kind of just like need somebody on the
Yeah.
mat. And I got on the mat and I had a blast. And it
Oh.
was so fun and like it was really well received. People were like, "Oh, who's this girl? Who's the, and then they offered me like, "Do you want to be like an assistant?" And I was like, "Well, sure." And that actually helped me elevate my skills because I
Yeah.
had to learn how to go through the kids fundamental curriculum. I had to learn how to teach it to
Mhm.
like a child, which really elevated my jujitsu. I think just in who I am as a person, I'm very like type A, very organized. I like systems. I like structure. So I just started to kind of develop that. And then the main guy that took over and was teaching, he left to open up his own school. And so there was just like three of us working together. And then when I got my purple belt in 2018, the Alberto and his wife had pulled me aside and they were like, "Look, the kids program's growing like a lot,
Mhm.
and we'd like you to like direct it. Like, can you direct the kids program?" And it was amazing because they just gave me that freedom to just. I didn't know what I was doing. Like I had
Yeah.
no like formal training or anything. It was all trial and error, and they just trusted me with the program. And we just grew the program and grew the coaching staff, and now we have like 180 kids.
Yeah.
Um,
There's some days where there is like, I don't know if they can fit another soul in this place.
Yeah.
But you make it work.
and make it work, and we're just continuing to try to like brainstorm, like always, like how can we, like, yeah, we're packed, but
Yeah.
how can we like cater to the community? And
Yeah.
it's like,
You're
well,
filling a need. Obviously, if
Yeah.
there's that many people, there is a need, and you guys are
Mhm.
filling it, which is
Mhm.
pretty incredible, right? And
you.
you have a reputation, and
yeah.
yeah. And so, were you competing while you were doing all these
Mhm.
coaching? You were still
Mhm.
doing your competition
Mhm.
world.
Yeah, so I was still doing my competition world. I was coaching. was still working some personal training, some coaching. When I started directing, I just like let go of everything, and I took like a big financial cut, but it was like
Mhm.
something that I really believed in. Like it was so fulfilling to me. So I like took this leap of faith into like just immersing myself into jujitsu.
Mhm.
And so I started to let go of the personal training, and I took like the financial cut just to work with the kids and also to have the availability to train and
Yeah.
to compete. So I was training full time. I was training like 3-4 hours. I lived at the gym. Like
Yeah.
not like there's actually like an apartment upstairs. Like
I've
I like
seen
actually
that.
lived there.
Okay, I was like, somebody must live there from here.
Yeah. So I used to live at the gym. And so when I say like, "Oh yeah, I live at the gym," like it was quite accurate. So I would train all day. I would teach. My whole life was jujitsu,
Mhm.
and then just scraped enough money by so we could travel and
Yeah.
compete. And so I competed all through like white to brown. Haven't competed yet as a black belt. I got injured last year, so I haven't competed yet. But yeah, I competed the whole time as I was coaching, which really again like helped elevate me as a coach because I
Mhm.
was out there experiencing it and like I was competing all over the U.S. Like
And you've been to some amazing countries too.
Yeah,
Some like national
yeah,
competitions.
yeah. So
What was the coolest place you went to?
Oh man. Well, it's awesome to travel like around the US and get to like network and meet like a bunch of
Yeah.
people like like New Orleans, Austin, Florida, Texas, like I don't know. There's a big list of like
Yeah.
places I've been in the US, but some of my like most treasured experiences was competing in Manila in the
Mhm.
Philippines. That was amazing because it was like, oh my gosh, like we're actually going like
Yeah.
we're going so far to like showcase our jujitsu. Um
And
and
you compete against other countries? So
yeah.
is it like are do they train differently? Did you notice anything in the
Um
terms of training?
So not necessarily in the terms of like their training, because like when you go for like the tournament, it's like everybody's trying to like showcase like their best like
Mhm.
game plan, I guess is the easiest way to explain it. But I remember when I went to Manila, like there was a couple girls from the Philippines in my bracket. There was two girls from Korea in my bracket. And I think there was like I don't even know where she was from, but anyways, yeah, I was the only one from the US.
Oh, wow.
And it was awesome. I think like it was in like this giant mall, like outdoor mall, which usually they're in like colleges or like,
Okay.
stuff like that, totally blanking. Like a See, this is how bad I am at sports, like a basketball gym. What is that called?
Yeah, a gym, right? A
Like a gym.
gymnasium.
There
Yeah.
we go. Thank you. Words escape me. Um so it was like in a big outdoor mall, which was like
Yeah.
totally new to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, like there's all these people like shopping and like
Oh my gosh.
going to the food court, and it was like multi-level, so they're like looking down onto the tournament. And um like in the Philippines, everyone would come up to me and they would like look at me like really closely. And then like some people we were with that lived there, they were like, oh, they just want to get close to you because they want to look at your freckles and they want to look at your colored eyes.
Oh
And I
my
was like, oh, I'm like,
gosh.
okay. So on top of like trying to like get in my zone for competing, I have like people coming up to me
Your
and kind of
face.
like looking at me. And
Oh my
but it was
gosh.
awesome. I ended up winning double gold at that tournament. So it was
Wow,
like really cool. Yeah, that
congratulations.
was like a memory that like sticks, for
Yeah.
sure. And then another one that I think is like one of my favorites is I competed in Mexico City. And that
Wow.
was like on a whim. Like I was just totally on a whim, and I was just like, you know what? I saw it posted. I was like, I'm just gonna go. We're gonna do it. And went, and I don't speak Spanish,
Yeah.
but all of the announcing was in Spanish.
Oh my gosh.
And I was so
You didn't
lost.
have anyone to translate for you?
Well, so I'm going around like not knowing what to do. I don't understand anything. And I'm like trying my best, and this girl, she saw me. And this is another reason why I find jujitsu so beautiful is this girl, she saw me struggling, like struggle. And she comes up to me, she goes, you don't speak Spanish. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't speak Spanish. Is it that obvious? And she came up to me and she was like, well, right now they're announcing that they want all the blue belt females. She's like, what belt are you? And I was like, oh, I'm a blue belt. And she goes, oh, cool, me too. Let's go check in.
Oh.
So then we're standing there and we're checking in. We're going to like this area that they call like the bullpen, where they check your gi, they check your weight, they check your ID. And she's like, okay, they're looking for female blue belt lightweight. I was like, oh, that's me. And she goes, oh, that's me too. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Now you're in my competition.
Now you're like, now we're gonna fight, probably, maybe. And so we go and they walk us to the mat that we're going to be fighting at, and I like look at the table and we're on opposite sides of the bracket.
Mhm.
So essentially like both of us would have to win all of our matches to meet in the finals.
Wow.
Which ended up happening.
No.
Yes. Yeah, so we end up like she fought, wins, I fought, win. She had a second fight, I had a second fight, she had a third fight. And then we're
Oh,
like,
now
oh,
I
man.
have goosebumps.
Yeah. So we end up
Oh my gosh.
meeting in the finals.
Wow.
And I ended up beating her in the finals. But the reason why I say jujitsu is so beautiful, because that was back when I was a blue belt. And
Yeah.
to this day, we're still in contact.
Oh, I love
Like
that.
I have friends all over the US. I not even the US, like all over the world. Like this the girl that I fought in Manila, like I'm still in contact with her. The girl that I fought in Mexico City, I'm still in contact with her. I have like one of my dear friends. I've gone and stayed with her twice in London and trained with her in London. Like jujitsu is just such a
Yeah.
cool sport. Like I'll go back just a little bit. Like when I was dancing, I was trying to get on a cruise ship. I wanted to work for a cruise ship. I wanted to work for Disney so I could travel the world.
Mhm.
And I would have never imagined, like, fast forward, here I am doing jujitsu, and it's taking me around the world, and now I have friends all over. I
You
have
can
friends.
just stay anywhere you want at this point, right? And
Yeah.
Coming to Manila, guys.
Yeah, I have friends all over the US and all over
Yeah.
like some international, and they always just like the jujitsu community is just like so cool in that way, where it's just like, oh, you do jujitsu, like you're
Like
my friend.
automatically a brother
Yeah.
and a sister. Yeah.
So, but those are
amazing.
probably my two like favorite ones
Yeah.
was the Manila and the Mexico City. Just they were so impactful and like they just really pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And then, I mean, the win is great, but it's just like just to know
The
that the relationships and the
yeah.
memories and like the challenge of it all.
Mhm.
So
That's really cool. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break
Yeah.
and then we have so much more to talk about.
okay.
Discover your dream home in the captivating city of Burbank. Introducing you to Mike McDonald and Marianne Bean, Burbank area specialists. With over 3 decades of combined experience, Mike and Marianne have the privilege in assisting numerous clients in finding their perfect homes in and around Burbank. They understand each of their clients' unique needs and provide personalized guidance. As Compass Realtors, they leverage cutting-edge technology and stay informed about market trends to maintain an edge in the dynamic real estate landscape. Discover why they've earned the reputation as the go-to agents for all your Burbank real estate needs. Reach out to them today at 818-266-9766 and start a conversation. Disclaimer, Mike McDonald and Marianne Bean are licensed real estate agents, license numbers 01004729 and 020-44937, with Compass, an independently owned and operated real estate brokerage firm. The California Department of Real Estate oversees real estate licensing and the activities of real estate agents in California.
All right, we're back. Thank you from that message from our sponsor today. So let's get back. You are then promoted as general manager of the entire Burbank.
Yes. So that happened a little over a year and a half ago. I was just directing the kids program. I was just kind of like the department head for the kids. And the kids program was just like really going well. And it was very structured, because again, going back to just like, I think my personality is just like I had helped build this team. We had like a group of amazing coaches. We all worked together and like the result was there. And so then Alberto, my boss and like the owner, he like came to me one day and he was just like, I want you to help me with the school, and what did he call it in the beginning? There's a book called like Traction Tools. And I started working with a business mentor in Colorado who runs like multi-locations in Colorado. And what was it called? I can't remember what it was called. But basically he wanted me to come in and help him integrator. That's what it was.
Okay.
He wanted me to come in and integrate and like help with like the whole school.
Yeah.
So I came in and I'm just like, he's like, you're very organized, you're very structured. And he was just like, I want to do this for Burbank.
Yeah.
And so I started working like with him and the business mentor in Colorado, just via Zoom. And it was just like a whole new world for me to just be like, no formal training again, and to just kind of take that leap of faith and be like, okay, like I'm gonna figure out how to do this.
Yeah.
And it was a really hard transition in the beginning, just like working with so many different personalities. And I had worked with a lot of these people for a long time. And I think it was like just an interesting adjustment into like running things. But over the last like year and a half, like we've just like really got our ship so like sailing all together.
Yeah.
Like it was almost like all the arrows were kind of pointing in different directions, like with different programs, because we have so many programs
Yeah.
and classes.
It's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah. So it was really nice to just like get everybody moving in the same direction and to just see like the result of all the programs, to watch like the Muay Thai grow, the Tac Fit grow, the like jiu-jitsu, like adult jiu-jitsu, kids jiu-jitsu, and it all just kind of like expanded. And it was going really so well. We ended up opening up a Pasadena location as well. So I'm not like physically at Pasadena, but I also help with the teams there. I help like implement classes and work with the team over in Pasadena, like via Zoom. So like I'll work with the GM from Pasadena and help them. And then he goes and will translate everything into Pasadena. We also have our Glendale location. And the amazing professor took over that. And so I work with him and then he works with his team and he's like awesome, working with his team. And so now we have like this like network of schools and we just opened another one in Crescenta Valley like 2 weeks ago.
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So it's just been like this roller coaster of like a last year and a half because I go from just directing the kids and working so closely with the kids to now I'm working with like the whole Burbank location.
Yeah.
We have like 700 member gym and it's just like so many personalities, so many programs, so many coaches. And then to work with the Pasadena and the Glendale. And then I'm sure I'll be working with the Crescenta Valley and just like, it's awesome to just watch the community grow. And it came at like a good time in my life, I think, because I was like heavily competing last year at Brown Belt when I also took over my position and then I ended up getting hurt.
Yeah.
So I was competing really heavily, and I like every month I was like traveling somewhere, like Texas, Arizona, Florida, Colorado. Like I was going all these places and competing, and then I was competing in May in San Diego and ended up blowing my knee.
Oh,
And
did you know the moment like you were in that position
yeah.
and you just like that was it?
Yeah, I blew my knee. It was like really, really emotional. I knew like I'm like I get like embarrassed like making like scenes, so I like tried to stand up, and when I tried to stand up, like I couldn't. Like the knee just
no muscle holding your knee
yeah,
together.
and so it was actually Mother's Day, and it was the first
Oh.
time since I was a white belt that my mom came to watch me compete.
Oh my
And like
gosh.
thank God she was there because
You had your mom
I
there
had
to
my
help
mom
you.
when I blew my knee.
Oh.
Went in, got the MRI, and I had like a grade 3 tear of my LCL, and I completely tore my hamstring tendon where it inserts in the back of the knee, which like felt very devastating. But when I look back at it now, like over the last year and a half or a year or so, I couldn't compete, and I couldn't like be the athlete that I once was. I think that's like still evolving and changing, and I haven't returned back to competition yet, so I'm not quite sure what that looks like. But
Yeah.
what it did give me was the ability to focus on my job
Yeah.
and like developing my skills as like a manager, and like helping the owners, like take over more responsibility for them.
Yeah. And you're taking kids to competitions now.
Yeah.
You just came back from Vegas,
Yeah.
right, with some kids?
I did.
Tell me what that was like.
So we've always taken our kids. We have like a pretty broad group of kids that like to compete at like the local stuff. Like we have a couple different federations that we go and we compete with. Well, there's this tournament. It's called the Jiu-Jitsu Con. It's put on by a federation called the IBJJF, and it's very prestigious, and it's a huge competition. And usually, like, I've had some people in the past ask me, like, oh, we want to compete with the IBJJF. And I'm like, ooh, let's not yet. Like, not yet. Let's stick with our dream tournaments. Let's stick with our Jiu-Jitsu World League tournaments. It's been a while since I used to have 2 girls. They're the Innes sisters, and they moved to Arizona. But those were, like, my 2 girls that I used to take to IBJJF. And that was, like, years ago. And then they moved away. And so I haven't had any students ready to, like, compete at the IBJJF level in years. And it was really nervous for me. I was really nervous because I was like, oh man, like I've been out of the IBJJF scene since May of 2022 when I hurt my leg, and I've just kind of been out and removed from that world and just focusing on a lot of stuff like in my own personal life. And so when I had these couple of moms approach me, there's some girls I work with one-on-one. I work very close with them one-on-one in like private lessons, and they train every day. They do, fundamentals, they do intermediate, they do advanced classes. And then they came up to me and were like, what do you think about this tournament? And I was like, oh man. And I got this like rush of nerves, like, oh, I've been out of that scene for a long time. And I was like, but you know what? Like, let's do it. Like, let's do it.
They want to put the work in, right?
Yeah, they want to put the work. The kids were the kids were the ones like leading the decision. Like they wanted to do it, and I was like, let's go, let's do it, let's train. And so I was just in Vegas. I just got back on Sunday, a couple days ago, and we went out there, and they did amazing. I had 3 kids go, my 2 girls and one boy, and they all like won matches, which just to win matches is extremely difficult, especially going up against some of the schools and some of the competitors that they had to fight and to like win. And so my little one, she got bronze. So she's
so tiny.
Oh my gosh, she's so tiny.
She's so adorable.
We call her like tiny but mighty.
Yes.
Like she's the smallest one we have, and she's just like full force, like, let's go. Like, I want to train. I
don't want to go against
I want to
her.
spar. So her and then my boy, like he did really, really well, and they both ended up getting on the podium for bronze. And then my other girl that I work very closely with, and she's just like, oh my gosh, it makes me like emotional.
I saw that video when she won, and she came to you and hugged you, and she was in tears, and I was in tears watching it. And oh, what an incredible moment as a professor to see your student achieve something they worked so hard.
Yeah, and like with her, like, and that's just like she's like a prime example of like why jiu-jitsu is so special, because she came in and she just watching her as a human and as an athlete develop over the last year is it's incredible. It's amazing. I remember like she started getting really good. She wanted to start doing some more classes, so we got her in some more classes. They wanted to do privates. So we started working one-on-one together, and like it was a lot. Like she her first couple tournaments, like I would always tell her, okay, I would tell all my kids, whenever we go to a tournament, the tournament is going to give you a gift, and it's up to you to decide on what that gift is and to come home and to like open it and work on it. So that way, no matter like the outcome, they always have like a something that they got to bring me back, like bring me back something, And so we went and like we had all this film, and she like kind of brought back her gift, but she didn't want to watch her film. She's like, I don't want to watch it. And I was like, we got to watch it. And she's like, no. And like, she wouldn't watch herself fight. She wouldn't watch herself lose. And so I kept telling her.
That's really hard.
It's really
even
hard.
As an adult, right?
Yeah,
even for a child, that's, oh my gosh.
Yeah. But she would say like, I want to be good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the best in the world study their film. They study their losses. They study. And so it took a while. And I told her, I'm like, I'm not going to force you to do this. Like, you got to come to me and do this. And so it took some time, but she started coming to me about her film. We went to another tournament, local one, and she ended up like losing, like I think in the first round. She didn't want to continue, and it was like she was crying, and her dad came in, and like her family's amazing, but just to watch her go from like, I don't want to study film. I don't want to. I'm like this girl has grown like leaps and bounds to where now after every tournament she's like, when are we gonna watch my film?
That's my alarm clock.
Oh, that's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Good. Like she would say like, when are we going to watch film? How can we watch film? What can I do? And she just starts asking questions, and she's growing and she's developing, and she's so humble, and she just works so hard, and she just comes because she wants to learn, she wants to grow. And it's just amazing to watch her confidence just develop leaps and bounds. And so it was a really emotional, like that video was just such an emotional moment, because for her as like a person, like she won gold at like this incredibly prestigious competition. She won gold, and it was like this moment where like I think she finally like believed in herself, and then like
and all the things you've been telling her to do and study, and
then for her to come to me, and just I was emotional because that's my first kid that's like won something like that, and it was just like this amazing like beautiful moment. So Vegas was a lot of fun, and it makes me so motivated and excited for our kids program.
And even like you just in general, I mean, you started as a dancer in Colorado. You moved here on a whim. It didn't work out. You found jiu-jitsu, and now you're a black belt, and you're a professor, and you're general manager of a jiu-jitsu studio. It's like, would you have ever imagined in your life, looking back, that you would be in this position?
No, definitely not. Especially because like growing up, like I struggled in school. I got D's and F's, and I had a really hard time learning, and as a kid, kids don't know, but they're like, oh, you're stupid because you don't get A's and B's.
Yeah.
And I remember crying and not going to college, and like, you get different heat for that from different family. Like my grandpa's like pretty traditional, and he did not like the fact that I wasn't going to go to college.
Yeah.
And how are you going to be successful? And my parents, I had their support, and they were just like, you're going to work hard. Like you got to just work hard. And so looking back, like if you would have told me like, oh, all these things that you're going to accomplish, I would have been like, well, you're crazy. Like, what? But it's just like, it's so true. It's just like it's up to each one of us, like what we,
found your calling. You worked hard at it.
Yeah. You just work hard, and you just stay consistent, and, you just pursue like helping the people around you and like doing a good job at what you do. And then like the rest of it just will take care of you.
Yeah. And now before we end, I want to talk a little bit about your Instagram, because you worked really hard, and now you've like blown up on Instagram. You've got like 40,000 followers. How did that start? How did you go viral?
Yeah, it's such a trip. I'm like totally not like an Instagram person either, which is like kind of funny to me. It's like ironic. But I always like through my like colored ranks started like building up a following just from like networking and competing and stuff. So I think I sat at around like 6,000 followers for years. And then actually this tournament that I was just at in Vegas, it's called the Jiu-Jitsu Con. I did it 2 years ago, and I was training super hard, brown belt, for this tournament. And like in my heart and in my soul, I was like, I'm going to win. Like I am winning this tournament, double gold, gi and no gi. And I lost first round. I didn't even make it through the first round. And it's single elimination. So one and done. And I went to the side, and I was crying. And someone took a picture of me crying, and like with my hands like on my mouth, and I was crying. And then I sat there, and I always just try to like brainstorm like what I'm feeling. I call it brain dumping. And I wrote like a bunch of stuff in my notes, and I wrote that in my notes. And then I was like, you know what? Like, this is how I feel. And I've always tried to be authentic on my social media. And I posted it with that picture.
Wow.
And it was the same time that whole 5-day tournament was going on. And it just blew up. It blew up because people were like, thank you. Like, this is how we feel when we lose. Like, so often you see these high level athletes like oh, sorry guys, I lost. Like better luck next time. Or like, oh, sorry team, didn't mean to let you down. Like,
Yeah.
oh, thanks to my team. Like, I'll be back. And it's just like,
You work so hard. Of course
Yeah,
it hurts.
for me, I'm like, no, I don't think that. I'm thinking way more than that, you know?
Yeah.
And so I ended up making this post and like writing what I wrote, and it blew up. And I had like
Wow.
hundreds and hundreds of direct messages off of this. And I think in like a matter of like 2 or 3 days, I went from like that 6,000 to like 10K. Like I just
Wow.
like shot up.
And with a really authentic message. Like
Yeah.
that's a really important way for, I mean, we see influencers explode for all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But this was honesty and rawness that
Yeah.
got you there. That's really incredible.
So thank you. But that's like kind of how it started. And then my dad, he always like teases me like when we talk about like various things. And he's like, why not you? Why not you? And he was just like, it was like my dad was just like, you have so much to share, you know, and like you already write like your captions and you speak your heart and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And he's like, just keep doing that, you know? And I was like, okay. And then I ended up following this woman, and she started making reels like with humor.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was like, yeah, I make these funny reels and that helps me with my like bring eyes to my
Yeah.
page. And then she sells coaching packages for like fitness. And so that's what gave me the idea is I was like, I'm going to use humor
Mm-hmm.
to draw people in. And then my hope is that they'll stick around to like read my
Yeah.
captions.
Yes.
And, you know, my whole thing is like trying to help people on and off the mat. And so it's like, I go through like the struggles. I go through like, you know, just try
Yeah.
to stay authentic. And so that's when I really like exploded is I was just started making reels.
The
Started
Hey
like,
Kevin video.
oh, those are kind of new. But
Okay, I had to talk about that for a minute. When I found your Instagram and I saw these Hey Kevin episodes, they are so hilarious.
Oh my god.
It's you and one other coach.
Yeah, Kevin, and he's a coach and he also works at our front desk.
Okay, and so you recreate these trends, like these acrobatic trends.
Yes.
And now that I know that you are a dancer, it makes
So much more sense?
1,000
Okay.
much more percent, because I was like, how does she move like that?
Yeah.
And you recreate them with him, and he
Yes.
doesn't want to be there. It seems like his
It's-
face just says, "Get me out of this."
So it's a lie.
I
Don't tell anyone, but
thought
it's a
so.
lie. So we're always there. Like there's always like the calm before the storm of kids
Mhm.
class. So we finish the noon class, and then it's usually just like me and Andrea, the office manager, like me and Kevin at the gym. And so one day we were like on a lunch break, and I was like, "Hey Kevin, like look at this trick." And I was like, "You want to try it?" And he was like, "Oh," he's like, "No, not really." And I was just like, it'll be fun." And so he was a good sport,
Yeah.
and he like did the trick with me. It was like kind of cool. And then like I hadn't been posting content, so the next Friday I was like, "Hey, let's make another video." And he was like, "Oh," he's like, "Okay." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "That was kind of fun." He's like, "But we should put like a different spin on it." So that's when we started doing the stitches. Like we took the original one, and then like my face, his face, and then we like attempt the trick.
Yeah.
And then that one ended up like blowing up and got like 14 million or something crazy.
That's
like it was like total
insane.
accident. Like we're just being like silly. But anyways, and then it was funny because everybody thinks I bug Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like totally the other
He's
way.
like, let's do another episode.
He's like, what are we doing this week? We gotta find it. He's always like sending me them, or like
Yeah, yeah.
now everybody sends them to us. But Kevin's a riot. Like
He's
Kevin
got
is,
that great RBF face.
Yes,
Like just,
totally.
I am miserable.
but it is so he is hilarious. Like
Yeah.
if you actually people stick around, they watch my stories, and he's like dancing on my stories or like
Mhm.
whatever it
His
is.
own videos are hilarious.
Yeah,
too,
like so the Hey Kevins have just been like they're just really fun, you know, just like bringing like another fun side
Yeah.
to like the community aspect of it, and we have a good time, and I think we laugh a lot because like we don't know what we're doing. Like we don't know. Like we'll be sitting there on lunch break and we're like, what should we do? And we're like following these like professional acrobats, and we're like, oh, do you think we could do that? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. Like I cannot do that. And he's like, no, he's like, I got full confidence. Like we got this. Come on, man.
Yeah.
And then we practice like 10, 15 times. We like get it, and then we film it. And it's just this whole silly
It's
silly
amazing.
thing.
I love it. Well, I'm gonna link your Instagram in the bio.
Okay.
Legacy's website, so people can sign up for a free class.
Yeah, come by free class.
And thank you so much. I'm so
Yeah.
happy to learn all these things about you. And now when I see you, it'll feel a lot different.
Yes,
So-
I know, because
I
I
feel like you're my friend
I kept
now.
like seeing him like I gotta like because I have like
I'm
always
like the
running
creeper
around.
in the corner messaging you like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast?
Yeah, no, it's so fun. Like, thank you for having me. It's
Yeah,
just
thank you.
so special, you know.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening to another episode of Women of Burbank.
My Burbank Talks would like to thank all of my Burbank's advertisers for their continued support. Burbank Water and Power, Cusimano Real Estate Group, Yumi Credit Union, the Burbank Chamber of Commerce, Gain Credit Union, Providence St. Joseph Medical Center, Community Chevrolet, Media City Credit Union, UCLA Health, Tequila's Cantina and Grill, UPS Store on 3rd Street, and Hill Street Cafe.